Dude, this boss fight is so cool! Oh, that was a low strike. The Spectral Knight feels like trodden ground in Dark and Darker, but fighting this boss feels more dynamic and intriguing than damn near any other boss. I've been using the Lantern Shield for a while, and the fight made me feel like all that hard work learning the Lantern Shield has finally paid off. Everyone I see fighting this guy successfully seems to be a longsword-wielding warlock. These warlocks make up for the odd mistake by using curses to just heal themselves anytime they take damage. It's definitely kinda silly, seeing them just phantomize and stand still when the Spectral Knight is doing his most dramatic attack, the phase-changing attack where he strikes in a circular motion around himself. Since I'm on the subject of that strike, it's worth noting that this scything radial attack only counts as one strike for the purposes of determining if you have blocked successfully. In simpler terms, he seems to strike all around himself once, and then again a second time, but it's actually just one attack. Important note here, he's actually got two different versions of this attack, and one of them separates the height of the two swipes a lot more, with the first attack being so low it comes out near your toes. When I first started fighting the Spectral Knight, I felt that the output of his attack animations was relatively random, but the reality is that once you spend enough time fighting him, you begin to notice certain patterns and rules that govern his behavior. First off, when he starts murmuring some shit talk and plants his sword in the ground, the explosion radius is not actually a circle, or perhaps it is a circle, but with the center of that circle not being quite lined up with the sword of the Spectral Knight, which is where you would expect it to be. Instead, I have noticed, the damaging knockback effect seems to extend further in the area directly in front of the Spectral Knight. What that means is, the worst possible way to react to the attack is to run directly away from the knight when he's facing you, and unless there are other people in the room, he will almost always be facing you when he performs this particular attack. Also, every single portion of damage dealt by the Spectral Knight, including this apparently magical attack, is actually physical damage. The opposite seems to be true for the Banshee, which was just released. This means that plate armor is probably the best kind of equipment you could use to fight the Spectral Knight, but the splashing knockback attack is the knight's way of punishing people who stay too close or move too slowly. To reiterate, the explosion seems to be centered on the spectral pools that are created afterwards, and since that pool is created several feet in front of the knight, you're far better off trying to dodge by rushing past him or running to the sides than you would be if you tried to run directly away from him. The presence of this attack animation and the pools that he creates also drastically affect the way you need to approach the fight, but luckily for you, this attack never occurs at random. The fact of the matter is this. The ability simply functions on a timer, which means there's a limit to how many of the pools can be inside the arena at any one time. The most I've ever seen is 3 or 4, but usually when he instigates the fourth one of them will be disappearing at roughly the exact same moment, and oftentimes the phase change will interrupt this process, resulting in fewer pools overall, if you can damage him quickly enough to cause him to phase change often enough to prevent him from having the maximum number of pools out at one time. In other words, you gotta remember if he's done it recently, and if he hasn't, you should probably get the hell away from the walls, as you can end up in a position where you simply cannot evade the attack. This is made more likely if there are pools near the edges of the room, and if you practice returning to the center anytime you feel that one of those attacks might be coming soon, The pools don't end up on the edges of the room, and you end up solving two problems at once. Being in the center of the room will allow you to run in any direction you need to, provided there are no pools in that direction. But if you leave the pools near the walls, you will generate additional corners that you can't get out of, and that's what's lethal about it. Still, just keeping the circles in the center of the room isn't enough. You must keep aware of where they are, or you'll die. This is probably the biggest weakness associated with the longsword tech, where people just circle strafe to the right endlessly. You'll end up losing track of where the pools are, just like I did here. Oh shit! Oh! Now I can already hear people in the comment section screaming about how no, you want the pools near the edge of the room so that the center is clear. No. You would much rather have the room bisected or have shit in it than you would to have the room shrunken. You do not want that room any smaller than it already is. Trust me. The other thing you can do, hypothetically, to combat this problem is to run Breakthrough. But guess what? Breakthrough doesn't help you here. Oh man, second wind? Poor bastard. Alright, a Breakthrough cooldown is back. Oh my god, Breakthrough does not work on the puddles. Oh my god, that's horrible. Breakthrough should work. Now, it may seem falsely that there is only one other unblockable AoE attack available to the Spectral Knight, and you're probably familiar with the one I'm talking about. He rises up into the air and comes crashing back down pretty swiftly, generating a powerful but much smaller knockback AoE in the process. Amazing. No chance for me to evade the attack, just fuck me, right? There is, however, another ability that is entirely unblockable. It effectively acts as an AoE. I call it the Cold Shoulder, and I've died to it many times. I'm still unsure if it has certain triggers, such as being too far from the Spectral Knight or too close, but I will say that unlike the other two attacks, I have witnessed him perform this attack consecutively. Although such occurrences are rare, seemingly by merit of the Cold Shoulder itself being quite a rare animation. Unfortunately, it happens so fast that there is really nothing you can do to consciously avoid it once it has started, though veterans and streamers and whatnot will generally avoid it successfully simply by strafing right endlessly. I don't like this at all. If you maintain the spacing necessary to completely avoid this attack anytime it comes out, you give up huge amounts of DPS. Most folks make up for this lacking simply by using a longsword. They don't attack often, but when they do, it's a riposte, and they get lots of value out of it. This is highly unreliable, however, even if you are a professional with a longsword. The problem is that when you commit to riposting, you're committed. Two-handed weapons take a decent amount of time to swing, and your legs are slow whilst you're riposting. But only with the longsword. The lantern shield allows you to continue moving at full speed whilst retaliating, and the nature of the shield mastery perk allows you to not only attack very quickly and then return to your defensive stance, but also to gain a 10% move speed bonus while riposting. What? The overall result of this change to equipment means that I can stay close to the Spectral Knight at all times, and I can punish him every single time he attacks. This is simply not the case with the larger, more cumbersome longsword. And remember, the greatest danger you will face while fighting this boss is just being too slow to respond to his AoE attacks. Furthermore, the longsword has no native armor penetration, and although the Spectral Knight currently has no armor value, just like every other mob and boss in the game, we simply cannot expect this to remain that way forever. I mean, the dude is literally made out of armor. So, given that I try to stay close to the Spectral Knight, I just kind of end up incidentally eating these cold shoulder attacks most of the time that they happen. It cannot be blocked, but it's not the end of the world. The damage is pretty low, and his follow-up attack is never a horizontal swipe. Let me repeat that. If he performs the cold shoulder, he will never follow it up with a lateral swipe, but instead always use an overhead or a heavy stab, which usually leaves him stunned long enough for you to get in another hit or two. This isn't the only place where the Spectral Knight's attacks are patterned and predictable. He also has a few rules regarding some of his more common attacks. Lunge. This low swipe attack is one of the more frustrating ones to deal with, and although he can choose to open up with it, he generally does not. If he does open up, he'll usually open up with one of the other swipes. The low swipe is almost always something he moves into after performing another action. Put him in the center. This diagonal downward strike he does finishes so quickly that when he combos into something else, like the low swipe, it usually comes out too fast for you to have successfully hit him and return to raising your shield. Recognizing which strikes can be riposted and which strikes you don't have time for is key to keeping your health up, but if you can do that, you will eventually get it. His two AoE strikes are really the only abilities that give you the time and space you need to drink a big red potion of health, and you should always take the opportunity to do so. The mistake I've seen a lot of the longsword tech users make is that there are actually two animations that look very similar, but one is slightly lower than the other, and you can see clearly that he did two different right to left attacks, my right to my left, and one of them did not hit my shield, but the second one did. They do look damn near identical, but they are different. Damn, son. With the lantern shield, you really don't have to change anything between those two attacks, but it is important to separate those two from the low swipe, and the low swipe, well, he crouches before he does it, and it's very identifiable. So anytime he does that, all you've got to do is block low if you're close, or jump high if you're too far away to block it. Once you've mastered his 3 lateral swipes, all you've got to do is recognize when he's doing the diagonal strikes, and adjust for the fact that you probably won't have time to retaliate against the lateral swipes or the diagonal swipes, and you just have to wait for him to combo a little bit before you have an open, clean opportunity to deal damage to him. Getting too greedy will probably result in you taking a hit. Now, because he usually combos into the lower swipe, it's often true that if you block and riposte the lower swipe, you can continue attacking as long as you strafe right, because his follow-up attacks will never be lateral attacks. Now, if you're really any distance away from him at all, and sometimes this is out of your control, he will perform much larger and longer versions of his swipes and overheads that will generally move him forward and stun him a little bit. This isn't bad as long as you can manage to anticipate it and block it, and usually he ends up in the animation long enough for you to walk up to him and just get a free hit. Ah. Avoiding his jumping strike can be a little bit dodgy. It gets glitchy from time to time. But if you physically look upwards at him to figure out how he's tracking you, you can usually react in time to dodge the incoming strike. Great druids. Please stay outside of the arena. On. Wow, he swung faster than I did. What a little dick shit you are. Fucking... Alright, it's officially the part of the video where we talk about the hardest part of fighting bosses. That's right, it's time to talk about other players. God! Sometimes they're friendly, but that usually just means they want to do the boss with you, which, especially given the new policy changes to High Roller, just doesn't sit well with me. Yep. How's it going, buddy?
Come on, brother. Let's do the boss together.
I'd prefer to do it one at a time. If you want to go first, though, you're welcome to, bud. I'm just trying
One at a time. Have you killed it before?
I've gotten very close. I'm so close with this lantern shield. I'm trying to capture it for my YouTube video. Or YouTube account, whatever.
Well, you should go ahead and do it, because if I do it, I'm gonna kill it.
Okay. I've found that other players who are permitting you to fight the boss often ooze this toxic ego. Warlocks are especially guilty of this. This particular warlock ends up saying that he thought I was going to rush him and his buddy, and that's why he attacked me. Fucking kidding me. Alright. Let me know in the comments, are any of you guys old enough veterans to remember when spellcasters, namely the cleric, could just not open boxes and doors on his own? He was just terrible at it. On top of warlocks already having the ability to move through mobs and players, on top of them having lifesteal that works at range, they also have the ability to open or break doors at will with basically no trouble at all. Wow, this is so much fun. I'm having so much fun. I mean, I wanted to fight the boss, but this is so much more fun.
Wait, hold on. Wait, you can fight the boss, bro.
Oh, now you don't want to fight the solo player. It's suddenly not fun anymore.
Well,
Fucking scum.
I thought you were gonna charge us.
You're both... What are you talking about?
If you're gonna be a little bitch about it, we can fight.
Fucking scum. I've learned better than to allow people to come into the room with me, even if I'm just trying to fight the boss and they're just trying to fight the boss. It's really not ideal. So I head upstairs to heal and to confront this guy, assuming he doesn't enter the room, which he doesn't, kind of signaling to me that he wasn't there for the boss. No, he doesn't want to fight him, he just wanted to ambush me while I was fighting him. Cool. Alright, we'll go over to the other side and kill him. I didn't even know this at the time, but he's actually the guy up on the kill feed that isn't me. Carnage X Bard, and I have no shame in naming this guy. He's a prick. He even whispered me afterwards to tell me that the gear was piss and that I am piss. Right. Unblockable. Can I help you, buddy?
You just chilling?
I'm trying to fight the boss, but you keep peeking in on me while I'm trying to fight the boss.
All I did it once, bro. And I was trying to get past the top of
Yeah,
the
well, why did you peek in? You're obviously not trying to do the boss. You were trying to ambush me while I was doing the boss.
bro. I was literally trying to go past for the cockatoos, bro.
Okay, fucking asshole. Get out of here.
And I know how to do the boss. I want to do the boss. I want to kill it myself.
I don't understand what you're saying. Leave me alone.
I want to cockatoos, bro.
Okay, fucking get ready to die, you little shit.
Okay, that's then.
Asshole! Alright. I'm just gonna show you some footage of what happens when nobody shows up, and we'll just pretend that all that other stuff never happened. If you have any further questions about how the boss works, please feel free to leave a comment, and I will be sure to answer it if I can. Right now, my audience is pretty gosh darn small. If you guys, feel like it, you should totally subscribe. What? YouTube still runs ads on you if I have less than 500 subscribers, but I get nothing for your pain. So be a cool kid and press the button. didn't hurt me. Why? Okay. Come on, my end is nigh. Tell me my end is nigh. You will, you want that. What? Yeah. There it is. What? Damn it. My end is nigh. Oh. Well, that's kind of like telling me my end is nigh. I know. I know. I believe you. There we go.